Welcome back to the summit. I am so happy to welcome Victoria Johnson. She's the author of Do That and Then Some, a #1 bestseller in 7 categories. She's also a national trainer for Canada for Heal Your Life teachers and coaches, a Hay House expert, a certified business trainer in managing heart and mind and personality dimensions, and has taught and trained in Canada, the USA, India, and the UK. She's 30 plus years as an entrepreneur building businesses that empower and help others, and a former corporate executive. So thank you so much for being with us here today, Victoria.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
I'm so happy to have you. And I know that you have a wealth of knowledge that's going to be so helpful for the audience. So I'm really excited to jump into this. So tell us first, what does this idea of unique identity mean to you?
Well, it's something that's been on my mind a lot lately, so the timing has been absolutely perfect for this summit. And I think the unique identity has to start with the person before it carries on to the business. And so for me, the unique identity has been rolling up all of those parts of myself, those parts that I adore about myself and those parts that I want to hide under the carpet about myself, and really pulling it all into saying, you know what? This is all me.
Mm,
And this is my identity, and this is who I am. And then my business too can just reflect who I am. And when everything is going great, it rolls that way. When there's a bit of a challenge, or I make a mistake, I can own it when I am saying I am my own unique self.
that's so powerful because I think we're not really taught to do that. A lot of us are raised to, try to be the perfectionist, do it all right, kind of person. And we lose pieces of ourselves along the way when we do that. So for you and your experience, tell us how that has looked.
It's taken a long time.
Yeah.
And it's a daily thing. And really think that that's a point to emphasize,
Mm,
is that we don't just wake up one morning and say, oh, you know what? I just totally accept every part of myself, and I'm not going to stumble anymore. And
right.
I'm never going to think about my shortcomings or things that I wish I would have said differently or done
Mm,
differently. And so for me, it's just that total being willing to love who I am, being willing to roll with things and to grow into the process. And I think that then what it looks like is there's a person behind the business.
mm. Yeah, and I think that that's a really interesting way of putting it because sometimes we forget that we're just like our friend or just like our spouse or our son or our daughter, right? That we're going to have those moments that are great and we're going to have those moments that aren't so great. And that we can allow for ourselves to have the full range of the human experience.
Well said.
So, how did you tap into your own unique identity as a business owner?
Through a lot of trial and error, tears and shame, all of those things. When I think back to, I don't want to think back to, but you mentioned 30 plus years as an entrepreneur. So I will go back there. So that would have made me 25.
Yeah.
And I had a ton of responsibility. And, on the outside, and as far as the numbers for the business went, everything was going really well.
Mm,
When I look back at how I treated myself, how I treated um, the the person who was the face of the business,
right.
myself, is really disturbing. I feel like I was, for the most part, good to the people that I worked with, but looking back, I know that I really sabotaged myself in a lot of
Mm,
ways. And I think that that's okay to say when you're 25.
right.
And then
Yes.
fast forward 10 years, and I opened a wellness center somewhere between 35 and 40. I opened a wellness center. And I feel like, again, I took really good care of my clients and really good care of my staff, not such great care of myself. And the thing is that inner critic seemed to
Mm,
be my worst enemy. And even when things are going good and 999 people were happy,
right,
my focus was on that one person who wasn't.
right.
And I continuously sabotaged financially as well. And I think that that's something that if we've had money issues in the past or, negative messaging around money that we need to get over, that's something to really recognize as
Mm,
business owners or as CEOs is what am I doing with my own personal money?
sure.
And because I had that money block, whatever came in went out. I got paid last and little, let's just say that.
Right.
And my priority was really, really focused on just what was going out to others and not what was coming to myself.
Mm.
Do we need to
So,
stop for a moment?
no, we're fine. So, what
Okay.
did you learn from that? I mean, where did the turning point come for you?
Well, honestly, I'm going to tell you the turning point didn't come till I was probably about 50 years old.
Yeah,
When it comes to when we start talking about the money and deserving and so on.
sure.
And I think that I realized that all of those things that I believed to be true, the whole scarcity around money, and also that if I had money, then I must be stuck up or I must be full of myself
Mm,
or whatever those messages might be.
right.
I don't think I really dealt with them until I was about 50 years old. And at that point, um, things changed in what seemed like a blink of an eye. And
Yeah,
25 years at that
right.
point was a blink of
Yeah,
an
yeah.
eye.
It's overnight, right?
That's right. And I realized what I deserve and that I deserved
Mm,
safety and security, and I deserve to
love
be paid
that.
well for my services, and that what I do offer is of true value.
Mm. I think that's so important because I think this is a really big issue for a lot of women. It's just feeling like I deserve to make so much money, whatever that number is for you. And that's probably going to look different for everyone.
Yeah.
But like you said, coming to the point of being able to say, yeah, I deserve to make that much money. It's funny how we think that other people deserve to make it,
Yes.
but somehow we don't.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And we don't have those messages about other people in our lives, but we definitely do about ourselves. And I'm sure this doesn't apply to everyone, but for those of us who maybe struggled, I was a single mom. I
Yeah.
struggled and I wasn't used to being able to get ahead. And so it was a bit of a panicky feeling when that did happen. But once I remember taking a seminar from Cheryl Richardson.
Um,
She's the author of The Art of Extreme Self-Care. And she talked about, if you're wanting to make more money, be a good steward of the money that you already have.
mm,
And so that replays in my mind quite frequently, when I'm looking to sabotage.
yeah.
And I remember, be a good steward of the money you have.
That's really good. I like that a lot. So, what tools and resources do you recommend others use to really assist them in this process of maybe just one, better understanding their own unique identity, but then also knowing how to develop it in a way that they are growing?
Okay. Well, um, I'm going to say, first of all, with developing your own unique identity, I would say you need to know what parts of yourself that you're rejecting.
Mm,
And so I would suggest that people do an inventory, perhaps through journaling, to do an inventory of what it is, where it is that you're criticizing yourself. Maybe keep some notes in your phone, or maybe keep a notebook with you for a few days. And when you hear that inner critic going off, check and see what they're talking about
yeah.
and find those parts of you that you are rejecting and not accepting. And then once you are able to identify those parts that you're rejecting, then of course you can make a plan for being more inclusive to you as your own unique identity, you as who you are. And for tools and resources, um, there's so much great stuff out there. First of all, um, I love that we have everything that we could possibly want at our fingertips, whether it's
Right.
YouTube or looking
Yes.
on Google or whatever it might be. But one thing that I really recommend is daily habits.
Mm.
And I've done so much research on it. I actually did my thesis on daily habits and how they can change our life. And so, a book that I recommend is by James Clear. It's Atomic Habits.
Okay.
And he talks a lot in there too about tracking those habits.
Mm.
And so I do that every single day, and I love those little check marks,
Yeah.
uh, putting the
Right.
little mark that I've completed my habit for the day. And it becomes a lifestyle. And, what starts as a chore, for example, I think 455 days ago, I started journaling.
Mm.
Like, oh God, I don't have time for this.
Right.
And it was like day one, complain, complain, complain.
Right.
And, but now it's a lifestyle. I mean, I get up in the morning, I make myself a coffee. Sitting and journaling is a luxurious thing to do,
Mm.
and it has really given me so much insight into myself,
Mm.
and to ways that I can grow, and ideas, as an entrepreneur, the ideas really are flowing to me during those journaling times.
Love
So I
that.
recommend these daily habits, tracking daily habits. I'll recommend journaling to anybody who will listen to me speak. And I'm not a big believer in rules myself. And so some days I journal for 5-10 minutes. Some days I journal for an hour and a half. And but just to do what you need to do for yourself for really nurturing that identity. And
Mm.
the other piece of that is to be productive for me, time blocking, to make sure that I am
Yeah.
blocking out the time, even the time for self-care, for family. Everything is blocked off, and I do my best to go back and review the week then and look and see how much of it I stayed on schedule with, and so on areas that I can make improvements. And it's not to go back and criticize myself, it's just
Sure.
to go back and take an inventory of how things actually worked out. And it's a way of staying calm as
Mm.
well with this time blocking, because you don't need to be flustered. You're going to get to what you need to get to at a certain time. And so that I find is a really big help for people when they get into the time blocking as well. And I would say to be patient with yourself. To when I'm training coaches and workshop teachers and so on, so often I hear people just so excited about starting their business, but know that you need to give your business time to grow.
Mm.
And just as we, as these unique identities, need that time to grow, our business also needs time to grow and to nurture it and to build it and so on. And just being loving and kind and patient with yourself through that process, I find is a really helpful tip as well. And knowing that as long as you're going in the right direction, you're going to get there. It may be not on the timeline that you had hoped, but you are going to get there, and you're going to look back and you're going to say, wow, I'm really glad it worked out that way because I was able to do this. And then I had this idea, and
Yeah.
everything just works out perfectly.
It really does. And those are such great points. And I love that what that does is it kind of allows us this space in our life. It's like we don't necessarily have to have these fast, hard, black and white kind of expectations around ourselves or what should happen or, what hasn't happened.
Yes, you're
But it's
you're
like
so
some
right.
breathing room.
Yes. And I want to, since we're talking about this, I want to mention too about comparison. And I
Mm,
know we all know that we're not supposed to compare ourselves to, so and so on Instagram and so on. But even if it's not on social media,
yeah.
we make up these stories in our head of, well, look what this coach is doing and that coach is doing, and every other coach out there is making money at this, or every other business owner who, um, you know, maybe it's a travel agency, whatever it might be. We
Right.
always assume that everything is running smoothly for everyone else.
Mhm.
And I just want to reassure everyone that as a professional, we all have challenges, and they might look a little bit different, and there might be some really smooth years, and there might be some really rocky years, but it's the same for everyone. And to just know you're not alone, it's part
Mhm.
of the journey, and to
Yeah.
expect it. And I find that when we expect, so let me just, I want to phrase this so that I'm not misunderstood. I don't want us to expect things to go wrong, like, oh my God, I know this is going to be a disaster.
Right. Sure.
What I want to say is expect there to be challenges so they're not a surprise to you when they show up, because
Yeah.
they're going to show up.
Right.
And when they do, then you'll know it's just part of the process. And then there's no sense to be emotional about it, or to
Mm,
be surprised by it, or to feel like you need to quit,
mm.
because you will know this is just part of it. It's no big deal. It's a great thing. It means you're overcoming a challenge, and you have an opportunity to grow.
I think that's super, super valuable. I think especially in the early years starting a business, it can be so challenging because you feel like it's a little bit all uphill, you know? It's like this is a lot of work, and what are the paybacks really right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and fear gets in there too. I'm thinking of a particular situation. This was probably about 6 or 7 years ago now. I have a couple of different businesses, and I was opening a location in another city. And so I had leased the space and did everything I needed to do. And then I went back to the city about a month later, and the exact same business had opened up across the street. And
Wow.
I sat on the floor and cried, like there's no furniture. I
Of
just sat
course.
on the floor and cried. And, the fear, oh my God, what am I
Oh
going to
yeah.
do? I'm going to forfeit on this lease. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I quit. I give up. It's too much. And, it's been a challenge, and there's been some bumps, but it has been profitable and rewarding. And just to remember that when those things come in and they really scare us, I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes the right thing to do is to say, oh, wait, I need to regroup. But other times we just need to say, okay, is this fear? And if it's fear, just keep moving. That's how you get over
Mhm.
it. Just keep going.
I love that. That's such great advice. Sometimes it really feels like, okay, I'm just going to put that other foot in front of the other foot.
That's
And
right.
maybe eventually I'll get there.
That's right. Keep some Kleenex in my pocket.
That's right. Well, so you've touched a little on this idea already of how accessing your identity has helped you in your own business. But tell us, you kind of went through a little bit of a transition because you've got some corporate experience and then you've also been an entrepreneur. So tell us how your identity has helped you differently in each one of those types of fields.
Absolutely. So I will say that my heart is the heart of an entrepreneur, and it's where I belong. And so I think that it was probably somewhere in my early 30s, I decided to try on a corporate hat. And worked as an executive director for a provincial company. I live in Canada, so we have the provinces. And I found out really quickly that I I had that need for making a difference.
Mm,
And I didn't feel like I was making a difference in my corporate job, although, I did a good job and the people were great.
sure.
However, I felt the whole time like if they really knew who I was, they wouldn't want me in this position.
Mm,
One day they're going to find out that this person they see, in her suit and high heels is not really who I am. And I really struggled with my identity.
mm,
And so when I left that position, I had the opportunity to go back, and that's when I started the Wellness Center. And again, we're so lucky. I'm assuming that a lot of people who are going to be listening to your podcast are people who are in the helping industry.
right.
And we are so incredibly blessed to be able to spend our days
Mm,
helping others to make their lives better. And it's so incredibly rewarding that
right.
it's hard not to be in love with what we do.
That is so true. Well, and I want people to understand, because I know that some people are, trying to transition or have transitioned, but maybe it's been kind of bumpy, from a job to being self-employed. To go back to what you were saying earlier, that this is a process for everyone and it looks
Mhm.
different for everyone. And
Yes,
so, allowing yourself, if that old space isn't feeling comfortable anymore, to just know that it's okay if you're still there for a little while. If you're not quite to the point where you can start your business or make that transition, that is all right. That, that's just part of the process for you to get there too. But at the same time, to know that as you're doing some of these things that we've talked about, that it will help you get closer and closer to being ready to do something like that.
absolutely. And if I can just add to that, I just recently read a book on entrepreneurship, and he made a great point. He talked about how, as entrepreneurs or business owners or CEOs of our own companies, we probably only spend 5 to 10% of the time doing what we really love.
Mm,
And a lot of the time behind that is spent marketing, paperwork, whatever it
right.
might be, building our business. And he compared it to Oprah. He's like, Oprah wanted to change the world by having this television show where, she uplifted people and so on. So that was an hour a day.
Right.
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 And, he talks about, famous athletes as well, and the same thing. And
Mm,
so I thought it was such a good point to make sure that you're truly passionate about what it is that you are wanting to be in business doing, because 95% of the time you're not going to be doing that. You're going to be
right.
doing the support behind it and building behind it.
Yeah.
And so I'm borrowing that point to share with your viewers and listeners.
Such a great point. Yeah, it's still work. It's not like you're necessarily just going off to playland,
That's
but
right.
it's all for something that is meaningful and purposeful for you.
Absolutely. And when you have that passion, you're going to love doing it every day.
Yes, so true. So tell people what some of the resources you have available for them are and where they can find them.
Sure. And so if you go to my website, victoriajohnson.org, there if you there's a little pop-up that'll come up offering you a free workbook. It's an amazing workbook. I think it's probably around 200 pages long.
Wow.
And it's all about transforming your feelings of being less than to
Mm,
being more than enough. And so it'll take you through different categories, your health, your spiritual life, your relationships, your career, and so on. And that is absolutely free and it's downloadable. So you can just work at it at your own pace and enjoy. Again,
mhm.
that's victoriajohnson.org.
Perfect. And where can we find you on social media?
I'm kind of all over the place, which is super fun. I know a lot of us are. So on Facebook, Heal Your Life Training. On Instagram, it is Heal Your Life Canada, and those are the main places that I'm posting right now is on Instagram and on Facebook. I also have a uh, Facebook group, motivational quotes and affirmations for inspiration. I would love to have people join there, and we just keep it a really positive place as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for being with us, Victoria. You've dropped so many gold nuggets. I know that this is really going to be helpful for the listeners.
Thank you so much. It is absolutely my pleasure to spend time with you.
And to all of you listening, thank you again for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye, everyone.